So a favorable schedule for Tennessee last year, a favorable schedule again this year. What is that projection going to look like? We're going to plug in our formula to see what the projected record is for Tennessee. And this is what it's been the last 4 years. So in 2021, our projection had them at 5-7. They went 7-5. So they beat the projection. I'd have to go back and look at that. They must have had a really tough schedule that year for the projection to only be 5-7. I know they were coming off with some tough times, but still. You look at 2022, projected to go 8-4. They beat that by 2 games. They were 10-2. So both of those years, they were 2 games better than the projection. In 2023, projected to go 9-3. They went 8-4. So a little bit of a disappointment there, but very close to the projection. And then in 2024, projected to go 9-3. They actually went 10-2. So they beat it by a game. So 3 out of the past 4 years, they have done better than the projection. So keep that in mind. And remember, these projections are very conservative. This is not a prediction. We're not going to do predictions for quite a while, but this is just, projection with our formula. And so you see the schedule, and this is kind of the scale that we use. This is going to show you where these games fall. So 50-50 games in the white. Those are games where you're playing a team in the same tier, or you're playing a team that is maybe a tier below you, but you're playing them on the road. So the home field advantage does factor into this. 61 to 70% games, those are games where Tennessee is going to be playing a team a tier below them at home. But again, if that game is on the road, then that becomes a 50-50 game. And again, this is not what we use to do this formula, but just kind of a way to look at it. The 40 to 60% games, those are kind of games where the spread's probably going to be around a field goal, 3, 4, 5 points. 61 to 70 games where it'll probably be about a touchdown, 7, 8, 9 points. 71 to 80, now we're talking double digits, and then 80 and above, maybe 20-point spreads there, 20-plus point spreads there. But like I said, spreads have nothing to do with this formula. That's just one way to look at it, one way that I think can make it a little bit easier to understand, I guess. And it's just all based off of our tier rankings. It's not, there's no like personal, I'm not picking the percentages here. I'm plugging in a math formula. So keep that in mind. Our predictions will be coming later, but we'll start with the easier wins, the easier games. You've got ETSU, UAB, Mississippi State, and New Mexico State. So Tennessee, and by the way, Tennessee is a tier 2 team that they will, so they're in tier 2. Georgia is the only tier 1 team that they play. Alabama and Florida are tier 2 teams just like Tennessee. So keep that in mind. So yeah, 4 games that should be wins. You would be very surprised if Tennessee were to lose any of these games. You feel very good about those 4 games. All right, so how about the games in the blue? Games where I think Tennessee, again, probably going to be a double-digit favorite. You've got Syracuse and Atlanta. I do agree with that. I think they will be a double-digit favorite in that game. Arkansas at home. It kind of depends on how good Arkansas is, but probably around 10 points. Kentucky on the road, probably the same type thing there. And then Vanderbilt at home. Vandy obviously much better last year, and I expect them to be, a decent team this year. So those won't be guaranteed wins. Those are games that Tennessee could lose. But again, the games in the green, when we do the math formula at the end, those are all counted as wins. Those are counted as 100%. These games in the blue are counted as 75%. These are games where Tennessee, again, should win. It would be a very big upset if Tennessee were to lose, but it's not a guarantee. They absolutely could lose these games. And then you've got, who else do we have here? We've got Oklahoma. Tennessee is a tier above Oklahoma, so that's why that game is in the purple. Tennessee, should be about a touchdown favorite in that game. With Oklahoma being a tier below Tennessee, so like if that game was on the road, then it would be a 50-50 game. Because Tennessee is at home and they are ranked ahead of Oklahoma. They're a tier ahead of Oklahoma. That is why that game is in the purple. So that is one that Tennessee, you don't want to take it for granted, but you feel like Tennessee will be the clear favorite. Not like they're going to be a huge favorite, but they should be the favorite in that game by, again, about a touchdown, something like that. So again, the spreads kind of work out as a good way to look at this. But Oklahoma at home, a game that Tennessee will be favored in, but it's a game they could lose for sure. All right, so then you've got Georgia, Alabama, and Florida. These are the 50-50 games. These are the games that could go either way. Again, Georgia is a tier 1 team, but it's at home for Tennessee, so that does make that closer to a 50-50 game. If I had to put an exact percentage on it, I'd probably put it closer to 40% than I would 50%. But right now, it's hard to say because I don't know a whole lot about these teams and what they're going to look like with all the pieces they have coming back. But that's a 50-50 game. And then you've got Alabama and Florida as 50-50 games in the same tier as Tennessee, so it doesn't matter where those games are played. Those are considered 50-50 games. Again, games that could go either way. So those will be very tough tests. Again, 2 of their 3 toughest games are on the road, but you've really only got the 3 tough games, the 3 really tough games, and maybe you throw Oklahoma in there as well, potentially as a tough game. Then you've got 4 tough games, 2 at home, 2 away. So that does work out pretty well for Tennessee. So what's the projection? Well, the projection for Tennessee is 9-3. And, that does seem kind of low when you look at the fact that maybe they've only got 4 tough games. But when you have these other games in the blue, Syracuse, Arkansas, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, when you've got 4 of those games, odds would say you're probably going to trip up. You're probably going to lose 1 of those 4 games. Upsets do happen. These are not guaranteed wins. And so if they were to lose 1 of those games, and let's say they split with Georgia, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Florida, then that's how you get to 9-3. So you can see how it's possible. Again, that seems kind of low because I think the schedule is very favorable, but the projection, again, with our formula, does come out to 9-3. But keep in mind, Tennessee has beaten that projection. They've done better than that projection. So just my personal take on this, I think 10-2 probably is more likely than 9-3. So how does Tennessee stack up with some of the other teams in the SEC, some of the teams at the top? Well, you see 9-3, the projection, that's the same as Georgia and Ole Miss. So only Texas at 10-2, but then Tennessee at 9-3, same as Georgia and Ole Miss. That tells me these are probably, based off of how good the teams are expected to be and based off of the strength of schedules, these are probably the 4 teams with the best chance to get to the SEC championship. So Tennessee is right there with Georgia and Ole Miss, and that's why that Tennessee-Georgia game potentially could decide who goes to Atlanta. So again, this is the projection for Tennessee. Would love to get your thoughts. Let me know what you think about the Vols and what you think that record's going to be down in the comments below.